Waitress speaks French to a customer. Billionaire at next table leaves a note and jet ticket. The rain fell in sharp silver lines, turning Soho into a mirror of trembling lights. Inside the Gilded Sparrow, the air smelled like truffle, butter, and money. Soft music flowed like a secret. People in suits spoke in low voices. Diamonds winked and then hid in the shadows. A girl in a black apron moved through the room like a quiet wave. Her name was Isla Marini. She had strong hands and tired eyes. She was 26 and looked older when she tied her hair up for the dinner rush. To strangers, Isla was a smile with good posture. To herself, she was a storm that would not end. Student loans, late rent, 2 jobs, and her mama's pills back in Ohio. Her mind loved art, old brushstrokes, and stories painted in light. But her feet loved nothing. They burned every night. The door! The hostess panicked. An elderly woman had just walked in with pearls that looked older than the city itself. Her coat was neat. Her hands shook. She spoke fast in French like rain hitting the glass. The hostess blinked and froze. Guests started staring. The manager was busy calming a man who wanted his steak to taste like power. The scene was about to break. Isla took a breath, stepped away from a tray of wine glasses, and went to the woman. "Bonsoir, madame," Isla said in gentle French. "You are safe. I am here. What do you need?" The woman turned, surprised. Her eyes were gray and scared. "Je suis perdu," she whispered. "I am lost." She had lost her driver. Her phone was dead. She was supposed to meet her son, but the plans had collapsed like wet paper. Isla guided her to a chair, took the coat, brought chamomile tea, and kept talking softly. She spoke about the rain, the city, the silly way the wind made umbrellas flip inside out. She spoke like calm water. The woman's hands stopped shaking. Her shoulders dropped. Isla asked the bar to charge the phone and called a car service in French. She got a number for the son's assistant. She made a plan. The panic faded. The storm passed. At the corner booth, a man watched. He had been there almost an hour, quiet and alone with a glass of expensive scotch. He wore a dark suit that spoke in a whisper. His hair had silver at the temples. His eyes were steady, but there was sadness in them, like a lake under ice. He did not look like a man who enjoyed being seen. He looked like a man who carried a room by accident. He saw everything. The way Isla switched from tired server to steady guide, the way she kept the woman safe without making her feel small, the way her French was smooth and warm, not stiff like a schoolbook. When Isla glanced his way, he made the barest nod. Not flirt, not praise, a mark of notice. Later, when the room thinned and the rain grew softer, Isla came back to his table. The man was gone. The glass was empty. Under a heavy black card lay a stack of crisp bills that made Isla's stomach twist. Too much. And under the money sat a small folded card, cream paper with strong ink. A note. "Your kindness is rare. Your French is rarer. Be at this address at 9 a.m. A car will be waiting. Get in." Dorian Vale Isla read it twice, like it might change if she blinked fast enough. There was also a second slip, a first-class open ticket on a private jet, destination blank. Her hands shook. She looked around as if the room would explain itself. It did not. It smelled like sugar and butter and secrets. She slipped into the staff room, pulled her friend Kaya in by the sleeve, and showed her the note. Kaya whistled low. "Dorian Vale, the logistics guy. The wind farms, the satellite shipping company, the Northern Rail deal, the one who disappears for years and then buys a whole port? That Dorian?" Isla stared at the card. "I don't know. Maybe. Is this a joke? Girl, if it is, it's the richest joke I've ever seen." Kaya studied the jet ticket under the light. "It's real. The watermark is real. The ink smells like rich people. But listen to me. Her voice dropped. "No one gives you a jet seat for free. Don't go alone. Don't drink anything you didn't open. Turn on your location. Send me pictures of every hallway." "I'm not going," Isla said, even as a part of her was already packing in her mind. Not for the money, for the mystery, for the way the man had looked at her. Not like a prize, not like a toy, but like a person who held a key. That night, Isla tried to sleep and could not. The ceiling was quiet. The radiator clicked like old teeth. Her tiny apartment smelled like coffee grounds and rain. The note lay on the table, heavy as a stone. She Googled the name. Dorian Vale. Pictures from years ago. Charity galas. A woman at his side with dark eyes and ballerina posture. Headlines about his wife's death 3 years back. Boating accident. After that, silence. No interviews, rumors only. He gave money to museums and hospitals. He built turbines that fought the wind and won. He stayed off magazine covers. His eyes in every photo had the same quiet weight. At 4 a.m, Isla called her mama. She did not mention the jet. She said she might go to a job interview. She said it could be important. Her mama listened and was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Mi soul, you are brave and smart. You know how to say no. If your gut says run, you run. If your heart says go, you go. But you call me when you land. You hear?" "I promise," Isla said. Her throat got tight. At 8:56 a.m., a black car glided to the curb in front of her building. The driver stepped out and opened the door without speaking. Inside smelled like leather and citrus. The city slipped by, gray and bright in the rain. The car did not go to a hotel. It crossed the river and ran straight for open sky, for Teterboro, and its quiet gates. On the tarmac, a white jet waited with a small silver V on the tail. A tall man in a gray suit stood at the stairs. He had pale eyes behind clear glasses. He did not smile. "Ms. Marini," he said, "I'm Colum Rook, Chief of Staff to Mr. Vale. Please, come aboard." His voice was careful, clipped, like it could cut if you leaned too close. Inside, the jet felt like a moving house. Cream leather, soft light, flowers, a seat that held you like a promise. Colum sat opposite and opened a leather folder. He did not ask how she was. He did not ask if she wanted a drink. He began to list her life. Columbia University, graduate study in art history. Focus on 18th century French art. Watteau, Fragonard, Boucher, he said without looking at notes. Loans totaling $138,200. Rent 2 months late. Mother, Teresa Marini, Cleveland. Medications for chronic heart disease. Your French is fluent. Your grades were excellent. Your dissertation is unfinished. Isla felt heat rise in her face, then cold. She folded her hands and kept her voice small and firm. "You have no right to speak about my mother." "I have a duty to my employer," Colum said calmly. "This meeting is expensive. We vet everything." "What is this about?" Isla asked. "No one told me anything." "Mr. Vale will tell you," Colum said and closed the folder. "For now, I need to know one thing. Are you trustworthy?" Isla looked him in the eyes. "I'm not for sale," she said. "If you think money buys my silence, you are wrong. If you think fear will keep me quiet, you are also wrong. If Mr. Vale wants to speak, I will listen. If he wants to use me, I will leave." A small crease appeared at the edge of Colum's mouth. It was not a smile. Maybe it was respect. "Understood," he said. The jet rose smooth and high, a quiet whisper above the thick clouds. The ocean below was a soft sheet. Time stretched. When the plane began to descend, the window filled with mountains and water the color of a dream. Geneva lay like a silver coin in a blue bowl. The car waited again and took them through hills green like velvet to a house made of glass and stone, above the lake. It was beautiful and lonely, the way something can be both at once. Colum led Isla to a study with a wall of glass. A man stood with his back to them, looking out at the far white peaks. He turned when they entered. Dorian Vale. In person, looked like the photographs, only more human. He wore a simple gray sweater. His face held strength, but his eyes were tired, as if sleep had been a stranger for a long time. "Ms. Marini," he said, "thank you for coming." His voice was low and rough, like someone who did not waste words. "Please sit." Isla sat, in an armchair near the window. The light was soft on the table, on the tea, on his hands. For a moment, no one spoke. Outside, clouds floated like ships. "I owe you an apology," Dorian said, "and an explanation. I saw you help that woman last night. You're French, yes, but also your kindness. That is not common in rooms like that. It reminded me of someone." "Your wife," Isla said quietly. She had seen the pictures. "I am sorry for your loss." He nodded and looked at his cup. "Her name was Elise," he said. "She loved art, not as investment, as air. She could stand before a small painting and see a universe. She taught me how to look." His voice thinned on the last word. He swallowed, continued. "Her heart belonged to a time. 18th century France. The fête galante, the gardens, the secret letters, the soft light. She believed that joy and grief lived in the same color." He reached for a folder and placed it on the table. Inside were old letters, faded photographs, fragile paper. "Elisa chased one work for years," he said. "A small painting. Not famous, maybe even rumored, not proven. A garden. A girl on a bench reading a letter, light on her cheek. A secret. Smile. She called it Le Jardin Caché, the hidden garden. She found a line in a noble's journal, 2 centuries old, that spoke of it. But then it vanished in the fog of history." His eyes lifted to Isla. "3 days ago, I received a message. The work surfaced. Private auction here in Geneva. 2 days from now." Colum's face did not change, but Isla felt the air shift. She opened the folder. Her fingers touched old words. She saw a black and white photo of a painting. Even in gray, it glowed. A girl, a letter, a garden breathing in soft brushstrokes. "I want to bring it home," Dorian said. His voice was firm now. "I owe her that. But I do not trust the room I am walking into. At that level, the art world is a maze. There are forgeries that fool the best. There are papers that lie. I have experts in shipping and steel. I need someone who knows the heart of this kind of canvas, someone who knows when a leaf is too perfect, when a crack is a mask, when a story bends wrong. Colum found your work. Your field is exactly this." Isla felt the room grow smaller and larger at the same time. "You want me to tell you if it's real." "I want you to tell me the truth," he said, "even if the truth breaks me." She looked at the letters. Again, the edges were soft with time. The handwriting slanted like a person in a hurry. Something warm lit in her chest. For once, her years of quiet study were not a joke the world made at her expense. They were needed. "When do I start?" she asked. "Now," Dorian said, and the grief in his eyes eased just a little, like a door opening an inch to let in air. Colum led her to a library that took her breath away. 2 floors, ladders on rails, a fire whispering at one end, old books with gold letters, new screens with high-resolution images, a table covered in binders. "Seller's documents," Colum said, "provenance, pigment tests, lab reports, expert letters." "What experts?" Isla asked. "Dr. Ansel." "Maury," Colum answered. "Head of department at a very old university. Name carries weight. He has authenticated the work." Isla nodded, but the doubt was already a seed. She sat at the big screen and opened the image file. The painting filled the display. Even in pixels it seemed to breathe. The girl's dress caught light like water. The leaves were soft. The bench was cool stone. The letter in her hands seemed to warm her cheek. Isla leaned closer. She did not trust first looks. Beauty can be a mask. She zoomed in. Crack patterns, brush movement, the way blue sits inside green. She had spent nights like this with other pictures, learning the old rhythms that tell the difference between soul and skill. An hour passed. 2. The painting was very good. Too good? She moved to the papers. Provenance. A noble house in 1766. A sale to a banker in 1794. A move to Switzerland. Adrift through private hands, and now here. Signatures. Stamps. Names. She opened a second binder. Letters from Elise. Notes. Photocopies of a journal entry. From 1788. Snow. A fire in the winter wing of a French chateau. A painting with smoke damage near the lower left of a garden scene. Isla went still. She went back to the high-resolution photo. Lower left, bench and ground. No smoke, no repair, no uneven aging. The craquelure looked too even. If there had been heat, the varnish there would age differently. But the fine lines were uniform across the canvas. That felt wrong. Isla did not jump to a conclusion. She turned pages. She cross-checked. She asked the system to pull auction archives and law records. She dug into an old academic paper about a group of forgers from the late 19th century led by an artist named Vincente Valade. Valade had been almost genius in imitation, but had a strange habit. He corrected nature. Real painters sometimes left a lazy leaf or a rushed shadow. Valade never did. He cleaned the world. Isla looked again at the leaves. Perfect. Too equal. As if the wind did not dare to make one leaf look different than another. A chill ran up. Her arms. She remembered another thing. Valade hid a tiny sign in the dark parts of his copies. Not initials. A mark. A thread of web. A whisper of spider silk. She zoomed into the darkest green. There, a faint crossing line near the shadow by the bench, so tiny you could miss it 100 times. A spider web, almost invisible, like pride hiding in a corner. Her heart beat hard once, twice. Isla sat back and pressed her fingers to her eyes. If this was a Valade, it was not worthless. But it was not what Dorian wanted. It was not the conversation. With Elise he had prayed to have. She thought of his face when he said, home. She kept going. She pulled shipping documents from 1794. She found mention of a convoy of crates traveling north with a list of paintings. She found a notarized copy from 1802 where a certain banker claimed a garden scene by J.H. Fragonard with a smudge in one corner. That matched the fire. But the current picture had no smudge. Where had the smudge gone? If it had been repaired in the 18th century, the repair would show under modern scans. But the seller's lab report, done at a private lab paid by the seller, claimed no repairs. That did not prove anything except that the seller's lab could be wrong or paid to be blind. She compiled notes. She took screen captures. She compared the pigment report to known charts. The white used in the painting was almost pure. Older whites sometimes had a warm bone tint, but late 19th century whites used for restorations could be cleaner. Her gut started to say a word. Fake. But her job was not to trust her gut alone. When night came, Colum returned. He looked at her notes without expression. Conclusion, he asked. I think it is not the original, Isla said steady. I think it is a master copy from the 1890s, by Valade or someone in his circle. The painting is near perfect. The story the sellers tell is smooth. Real stories are rough. There is no sign of fire damage. And I believe I found Valade's hidden web. Colum's jaw flexed once. He nodded slowly. Mr. Vale will be very disappointed. I know, Isla said softly. But if we pull out, we save him pain and money. Maybe, Colum said. Or maybe we give up leverage. He led her back to the study. Dorian stood by the window again. He turned when they entered. His eyes searched Isla's face and seemed to know before she spoke. "It's not her, is it?" he asked. Isla shook her head. "I don't think so." The room went quiet. Dorian looked past her at the lake, and the grief came back full. For a moment, Isla wished the painting were bad enough to be easy to hate. But it was beautiful. Just not true. Colum cleared his throat. "We can withdraw," he said. "Or we can use this." "Use it?" Dorian asked, not looking away from the glass. "If the sellers are moving a Valade and calling it Fragonard, they are playing with fire," Colum said calmly. "We could take our evidence to them in private, offer them a way out that saves their faces. We buy it as what it is, not as what they claim. Quietly, no scandal, no ruined names." "Why would we want it if it is not hers?" Dorian asked. His voice was flat. "Because even a lie can hold a map," Isla said. The words surprised her. "Because whoever hid this has a reason. Because if Valade painted this from something, he saw the real one. He looked at it long enough to copy. The air. He might have made notes. He might have left a trail. If we own this copy, we own a clue." Dorian turned to her. For a second, his face softened in a way that made him look younger. "A clue," he repeated, like the word might decide. "To be hope." He nodded once. "All right, we go." The auction was held in a bank vault that looked like a modern temple. Smooth stone. Quiet guards, people who smiled with their lips and not their eyes. Colum arranged a private meeting before the bidding. In a small room, Isla sat with Dorian, Colum, and two siblings with perfect posture, Saskia and Matthias Vaughn. Here, the sellers. Next to them sat Dr. Ansel Maury, the famous expert, with a silver pen and a careful smile. The Von Heer siblings did polite things with their mouths. They called the painting a treasure of the family. Dr. Maury called it an early jewel. Isla let them speak. Then she opened the tablet and showed the garden on the screen. She zoomed in to the lower left. She spoke in a voice that made even the room lean forward. In 1788, a winter fire damaged the lower left. Records show it. Your painting shows no scar. Your lab report says no repair. That is a problem. She swiped. This is a paper on Vincente Valade. He made copies that were too perfect. He left a web in the dark. Here. She zoomed into the shadow and tapped the faint lines. A web. Dr. Maury's smile dried. The Von Heers went pale. For a long moment, no one breathed. Colum slid a letter across the table. "Here is our offer," he said. "We will buy the painting today for a fair price for a late 19th century Valade. We will not speak to the press. We will not show your lab report. We will not ask why Dr. Maury missed the web. You will withdraw from the auction. You will take our money, and you will walk away with your name still worth something." Dr. Maury bristled. "I have earned my reputation. I do not." "Reputation is a mirror," Colum said quietly. "It breaks quickly." The siblings looked at each other. Pride wrestled with fear. Fear won. They nodded. The deal was done in minutes that felt like hours. When Isla stepped back into the hall, her knees trembled. Dorian touched her shoulder lightly. "You were very brave," he said, "and very kind." "It hurts," Isla said, surprising herself. "I wanted it to be hers. For you." "For us," he corrected softly. "For the promise we keep to the people we love." They took the painting home. It hung in the library like a beautiful lie. Colum ordered new scans at an independent lab. Isla kept going. If Valade had copied this, he had seen something. A sketch, a small original, a study. She dug into his letters. Most were lost, but she found a mention of a friend in Lyon who ran a small frame shop in 1891. She found a ledger. She found an invoice. Copy of garden scene for client R. Only an initial. She found a note about a woman who had brought a small canvas with a smudge to be lined behind a new layer for protection. Ela stared at the note until the words blurred. A small canvas with a smudge. Could the copy be clean because the original had been lined and hidden behind another canvas? People did that then to protect paintings or to hide them. She called the frame shop. The shop was gone, but records had been saved by a historical society. In the records, she found a list of clients. One line was smudged, but you could still see the shape of a name. Ravel? Ravote? Raved? She ran names through archives. She found one. Rave, a banker's clerk who lived alone and died without heirs. His estate had been sold in 1893. The list of goods was short: a bed, 2 chairs, a mirror, and 3 pictures. One picture had been described as woman reading in garden. Ela felt the world tilt. The picture had been sold to a dealer whose records then led to a cottage in the Jura Mountains, to a private sale in 1914, to a family named Besson, who had taken the work when they fled east during a war. Then the line went thin. The Besson family had a grandson who moved to a village near the Swiss border. He had died last year. His daughter, an old woman with a neat coat and trembling hands, had been seen recently in a restaurant in Soho, speaking anxious French to a hostess who could not understand. Ela sat very still. She could hear the rain of that night as if it fell now. She could smell the tea she had served. She could see the pearls. "Oh," she said softly. "Oh," she told Dorian and Colum. Colum did not show surprise, but his hands tightened behind his back. Dorian closed his eyes, opened them, and nodded once. "Find her," he said. They found her in a small apartment 3 bus stops from the city center. Her name was Madeleine Besson. She wore the same pearls. Her hands shook less now. When Ela spoke to her in French at the door, the old woman smiled, like a door opening. They sat at a table covered in a white cloth with tiny flowers. The air smelled like bread and thyme. Madeleine told them a story. Her grandfather had hidden something before he died. He told his son, her father, who told her. The painting was lined and covered and placed behind another canvas in an old wood frame, for safety, for luck. During bad years, it was a secret smile on a wall. During good years, it watched birthdays. When she grew old, she grew scared. Thieves read papers. People lie for money. She kept the frame in a trunk and never told anyone. But she had gone to the restaurant the other night to ask her son to help her donate it. He never came. Her driver got lost. Her phone died. She got scared. Then a girl with kind eyes spoke French like butter and brought her tea. The girl made. Her feel safe again. Ela swallowed hard. Her hands trembled now. "May we see it?" she asked. Madeleine nodded and led them to a bedroom. She opened a trunk and took out a flat package wrapped in cloth. Inside was an old frame, simple wood. It held a dark landscape that was not good. But when Dorian and Ela lifted the frame and loosened the back carefully, a second canvas lay underneath, lined and tacked, the edges older, the color different. When the light touched it, the room seemed to hold its breath. The girl sat on a stone bench reading a letter. Light touched her cheek. Her mouth curved, not big, just the beginning of a secret. The leaves behind her were not perfect. One was a little messy and lovely. Near the lower left, a faint memory of smoke had touched the varnish, and the crack lines there changed direction like fine rivers. It was not loud. It was true. Ila's eyes filled with tears. Dorian put a hand to His mouth looked like a man who has walked a long way and finally seen home. Madeleine smiled through her own tears. "She has been patient," she said. "She deserves a good wall." They did it right. Lawyers came, papers were signed, the painting was scanned, tested, given the care of a hospital patient and the love of a first child. The experts came and did not disagree. Dr. Morey wrote a gracious public letter about human error and the excitement of discovery. The Von Heers gave a small donation to a museum and kept their names. The valid copy hung in Dorian's library with a new plaque that told the truth, a beautiful lie that led to a better truth. The real Le Jardin Caché would not go to Dorian's house. It would go to a foundation with a promise attached to its frame, in honor of Élise Vale and Madeleine Besson, the woman who kept a secret safe through a century. Dorian made the foundation that week. He asked Isla to lead it. "You saw what others missed," he said. "You were kind when you could be clever. You were brave when you could be quiet. I don't need a buyer. I need a guardian." His eyes were not as tired. "I will pay your debts. I will fund your doctorate. You will build this the way Elise would have liked, joy and grief in the same color." Isla stood in the library where the fire whispered and the shelves watched. She thought of her mama. The pills, the late rent, the nights of coffee and books, the way the rain makes old roads shine. She thought of the man alone at a table who had seen her not as a server, but as a key. She took a breath that went all, the way down to her toes. "Yes," she said, and her voice did not shake. "But the first rule is honesty. Labels tell the truth. Provenance is clear. Loans go to schools and small museums, not just big rooms. And we start a fund to help families who find art in their attics and don't know what to do." "Deal," Dorian said. He smiled then, a real human smile, and the room felt warmer. On the day they unveiled the painting, the sky over the lake was so blue it hurt. Children lined the front row. Reporters stood in the back and tried to whisper. Madeleine wore her pearls and held Isla's hand. Dorian spoke first. He spoke about love and loss, and how sometimes a wrong path still leads you where you need to go. He did not talk about money. He talked about stories. Then Isla spoke, simple and clear, like she was talking to one person in a kitchen. "This painting is a letter across time," she said. "It was hidden. It was copied. It was carried by brave hands. It waited. It came to us because people chose kindness when they could have chosen greed, and truth when they could have chosen pride. We promise to protect it. We promise to share it. We promise to listen to the quiet things that paintings say." After the ribbon fell and the room filled with soft noise, Dorian stood next to Isla and looked at the girl on the bench. "I can hear Elise again," he said. "Not in words, in light." Isla nodded. "The best people never really stop speaking," she said. "They teach us how to look and how to care." That night, when the guests were gone and the lake was a dark mirror, Isla walked through the library alone. She touched the back of a chair. She listened to the hush of the fire. She felt the room keep a promise. Her phone buzzed. It was a picture from Kaya, a selfie with a caption. "Are you famous yet, art girl?" Isla laughed out loud and sent a photo back, her and Madeleine and Dorian, all three smiling at the painting like it was telling a joke only they understood. The next morning, the gilded sparrow looked smaller when Isla went back to leave her apron and say goodbye. The rain had stopped. Light pooled on the tables. The manager tried to talk her into one more week. Kaya squeezed her so hard she squeaked. "You better put me on your museum board one day," Kaya said, half joking, half not. "I will put you in charge of snacks," Isla said. They laughed until they cried a little. Then Isla walked out into the new day. The street was loud. The sky was clear. She felt like she had been underwater for a long time and had finally surfaced. At the corner, a man in a quiet suit waited, not to watch her this time, but to walk with her. "Ready?" Dorian asked. Ready, she said, and they moved toward a future that did not smell like fear or truffle but like paper and paint and the clean air that comes after rain. Weeks turned into months. The foundation funded young scholars. The gallery loaned paintings to schools in small towns. A bus pulled up in Cleveland one spring day so her mama could see the garden girl up close. Her mama cried and said the leaves looked like they were singing. Ela finished her dissertation and wrote the last line with a steady hand. The title was simple: Truth in the Garden. She sent a copy to Madeleine, who wrote back in shaky French, La vérité est patiente. Truth is patient, sometimes. At night, Ela went to the library when it was quiet and sat with the valid copy, The Beautiful Lie. She liked it now. It reminded her that wrong roads can still point the way. She touched the frame and whispered thank you to a man who had tried too hard to be perfect, and by doing so, left a tiny web for her to find. In time, Dorian laughed more. The tired in his eyes faded. He stood longer in front of the real painting, and shorter in front of the balance sheets. He stopped bringing his grief as a shield. He started bringing it as a flower. He and Isla became friends the slow, true way. Work first, then trust, then a kind of light that does not need to be named. And sometimes when rain hit the glass just right, Isla remembered the very first night, the small shake of an old woman's hands, the way French can sound like a lullaby, and a folded card under a glass that asked her to get in a car and trust her own courage. She thought about how one small kindness can change the shape of a life. The story began with a title and a storm, and it should end with the same title and clear light. Waitress speaks French to a customer. Billionaire at next table leaves. A note and jet ticket. But that is not the real ending. The real ending is a room where a girl in a painting reads a letter that only she can see, and the light on her cheek is a promise that some secrets are safe with time, some losses make, room for love, and some doors open because one day you were tired and kind anyway.